Aside from obviously pull-ups, the front lever is probably the most iconic calisthenics back movement. It looks powerful and gravity-defying to suspend yourself in the air while only gently holding onto a bar. This movement attracts a lot of bodybuilding-minded people as well because of the apparent ease of execution. Unlike many other calisthenic skills like the handstand push-up or the planche, this one actually is much easier to perform. The movement relies a lot more on strength as opposed to balance, coordination, and proprioception. So this begs the question, how good is the front lever for bodybuilding? The first variation we're going to talk about, and probably the most iconic variation, is the general front lever hold. The isometric front lever hold most certainly isn't ideal for hypertrophy. Many studies have shown that isometric holds aren't as hypertrophic as, going through a motion, going through the positives and negatives. So if you apply this logic to the front lever, which I think it is reasonable to apply this logic to the front lever, then you could clearly see that the front lever hold, isometric hold at least, isn't going to be as optimal for hypertrophy. Now, what about the front lever raises? I think this is a much better movement in my opinion. The front lever raise puts your muscles through a dynamic motion. It's where you hold onto the bar and then you put your legs up while keeping your back straight. There actually is a bodybuilding analog to this movement. It is called the straight arm lat pull down, and a little bit of the cable pullover, but I think the lat pull down is more applicable. This movement works on your lats, your core, the long head of your triceps, and a little bit of your rear delts. This is an amazing back exercise if you don't want to use your biceps. You also get an amazing stretch with this movement. With this in mind, I would say that the calisthenics equivalent to that movement, so the front lever that we've been talking about, is actually a great movement. Front lever raise specifically, I should specify. Not only does it mimic the bodybuilding move of the pullover and the straight arm lat pull down, but you also actually get a bigger stretch than those exercises because you get to hang from the bar, which puts your arms at like a perfect 180-degree angle. We generally think of this movement as a sort of 90-degree sort of pendulum thing, but you can actually go all the way to 180 degrees if you're really strong. Get that in camera. You can actually go out to 180 degrees if you are really strong. So there's actually more potential for a higher range of movement with this exercise. A major difference between these exercises, however, is that the front lever is a much more big exercise. It requires a lot more energy to perform it. It has around the same intensity as a pull-up, I would say. You almost have to base your workout around that exercise as opposed to just plopping it in at the end like you can with the straight arm lat pull down. It's similar to like the bench squat deadlift. The pull-up is also sort of on that same level where it is very taxing, very systemically taxing, and this exercise is no different. It works your lats, again, your lats, your erector spinae, your core, all these muscle groups to an extreme degree. People generally think that this exercise is very hard on your core, but it's actually a major lat exercise. Although you do actually get quite a bit of core action in there because when I do it, my rib cage, it expands a lot, and then once I finish the rep, it contracts a lot and I feel my core working quite a bit. I'm not saying that this is like the best core movement, it's not. I'm just saying that there is a decent amount of core involvement in it. More than most like heavyweight compound movements. I would say that's more than the pull-up, it's more than the squat, it's more than the deadlift. It's not a lot, but it's decent. Another thing important to note about this exercise is that it becomes significantly more easy when you're lighter. So if you struggle to get more than 3 reps out of this, you'll have to choose a lighter and easier progression. But then that comes with the problem now because the easier progressions actually emphasize different muscle groups. I talked about this in my calisthenics versus gymnastics video, but different calisthenics exercises emphasize, easier variations of calisthenics exercises, they emphasize different muscle groups. And this is mostly fine if you're just trying to learn skills, if your goal is skill acquisition. But if your goal is to grow certain muscle groups, then this is obviously a significant thing to think about. For example, if you can't do the full front lever, then you'll have to do the tucked front lever. But the tucked front lever mimics a knee raise half the time because you're raising your knee, right? And that puts less emphasis on your back and more emphasis on your core. So it becomes more of a core exercise, core fatiguing exercise than it is a back fatiguing exercise, which is something you really have to consider if you're going to try and add this into your workout routine. Another popular variation of the front lever pull-up is the front lever row, where you are doing a front lever and then you basically pull yourself up in that position. This is sort of the equivalent of doing a straight arm lat pull down and then doing a row at the bottom. It's sort of a curious case of doing a dynamic movement, being the rowing, during the peak of another very difficult movement like the front lever hold. I'm much more cautious of this variation compared to the front lever raise. Most of the stress you get from this exercise comes from actually holding your body up, which, as I explained before, isometrically holding your body up in the front lever hold is not optimal for hypertrophy. You have the illusion of doing something very significant and that you're actually pulling yourself up while in this position, but I don't believe it adds a significant hypertrophic stimulus. If you can do a full front lever, chances are you have a very strong back, and adding a row to that isn't going to be very significant. Because again, think about what you're actually doing. You're doing a front lever, which is a very difficult movement, but then from there, you're just doing a bodyweight row. And a bodyweight row isn't exactly very hard. The technical mastery you need to perform this exercise is very high and it's very impressive. But the hypertrophic stimulus, I don't see it being very significant. So in terms of adding this movement to your bodybuilding routine to help you make more back gains, I'm very cautious of it. And a similar logic applies to another popular front lever variation, being the ice cream maker. During the ice cream maker, you oscillate between a front lever hold and the top of a pull-up. While this looks very impressive and has some benefits over the front lever row that I mentioned before, I do not think that this adds anything significant, as kind of like what I explained before, if you can do a front lever, you can probably do a lot of pull-ups already. So practicing being in that top range of motion at the pull-ups probably isn't gonna be helping very much. So with all that taken into consideration, what is the final verdict? I believe that the front lever hold and the front lever row and the ice cream maker probably aren't worth your time if your goal is to get as much hypertrophy as possible. But I do think that the front lever raise is probably worth considering. However, you can probably only really gain a lot from this exercise if you are A, extremely light, or B, extremely advanced. Less experienced people will not have the bodily skill to be able to do this exercise. At least do it with enough proficiency to be able to, do it for 7 or 8 reps as to get a significant hypertrophic stimulus from it. So yeah, there's my take on the front lever. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you all next time. Peace.